Well, hello again, everyone. Uh, Back again with another short lesson. This one is going to be the Gog Magog War Part 2. Last time we looked in Part 1, we looked at the players, and tonight we want to look at the purpose of this attack. And as we start in Isaiah 46, verses 9 and 10, this is in the Complete Jewish Bible. It says, remember things that happened at the beginning, long ago, that I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. At the beginning, I announce the end. I proclaim in advance things that are not yet done. And I say that my plan will hold, and I will do everything I please to do. So I announce it, I proclaim it, I say it, and I'll do it. And so, how do we know that Ezekiel 38 is going to happen in the way that God has presented it to us? Because God said it before the world existed. He said it, and He's going to do it. And I think it's that simple. And so, the last time we looked at the players in this passage, and you can see them up on the map here on the screen: uh, Russia, Turkey, Iran, uh, Sudan, and Libya, and a bunch of friends with them. And we just saw that when we were looking at the Olivet Discourse. You see, all these players are today um, terrorizing Christians all over the world. 380 million Christians last year, 2024. And so those are all the names of the people that are going to come with these five nations against Israel. So we looked at the players. This time we want to look at the purpose for the attack that comes against Israel. And as we do, let's remember that Ezekiel wrote these words, right? So he's a prophet. He wrote these words that went into this book, but it was God speaking through him. So it's God talking right in here in these passages. So tonight we want to look at Ezekiel 38, verses 10 through 13. And it says, thus says the Lord God, on that day it shall come to pass that thoughts will arise in your mind. That's Gog's mind, the leader of Russia. And you will make an evil plan. You will say, I will go up against a land of unwalled villages. I will go to a peaceful people who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates, to take plunder and to take booty, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are once again inhabited, and against a people that are gathered from the nations, who have acquired livestock and goods, who dwell in the midst of the land, Sheba and Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions will say to you, have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to take plunder? Now, as we look at this, there's some things here we really want to take a look at. Unwalled villages. Well, they pretty much have unwalled villages today in Israel. They're not currently at peace. They're not currently dwelling safely, but they're very close. They're dwelling without walls. I mean, there's a wall around Jerusalem, but that's been there for 2,000 years or longer, 3,000 years, right? And they have neither bars nor gates. And so we want to take a look at this. And it also mentions the waste places. I find that interesting. You're going to come against the waste places that once again are inhabited, right? When Israel was scattered by Rome in 135 AD, when they left, God let Israel go back to dirt, to soil. Uh, Mark Twain traveled through Israel back in the 1800s and said he didn't see a person for days as he traveled across the nation. There was nothing, there were no trees, there were no plants. It was all desert, like driving through the desert in California, if you've ever done that, or driven across country in some of the states where it's just barren land. tumbleweeds and occasional cactus. But now it's inhabited again, and the people have been gathered from the nations, and they've acquired livestock and goods. And so all of these things have already taken place. Now, to dwell safely, I thought this meant they were safe, right? There was nothing, threatening them. But the word is batak in Hebrew. It means they're confident or they have an assumed safety. It doesn't say they're living in safety. They have an assumed safety, and that's important now because of what's happening. And also, when the Antichrist comes on the scene, this war will have been over. At least he's going to bring it to an end and bring peace. So this Gog Magog war is going to happen as a lead up to this tribulation period, in my estimation, maybe as much as 3.5 years beforehand. So we could be raptured today. The Gog Magog war could start tomorrow. The tribulation might be 3.5 years down the road from here. There's a gap between the two, the rapture and the tribulation period. And we don't know how long that's going to be and how bad things are going to get. But I have to wonder if their success in shooting down all the missiles that Iran and the Houthis and the Hezbollah and Hamas have fired at them, and now having potential peace treaties with both Iran and Hamas, or possibly the destruction of both of those groups, would be the reason Israel would have to drop its guard. Right? Hezbollah to the north, Hamas to the south, the Houthis to the south and east, and Iran to the north. If these are all destroyed or have peace agreements, Israel would be at an assumed peace at that point in time. And I think that's what this is talking about leading up to the Gog Magog invasion. So, what I'm going to share now is my opinion, or guess, if you will, as to the sequence of these prophetic events that are coming. It's not a thus saith the Lord. I'm just giving you my interpretation as I'm reading these. And here's the preconditions. They have to have unwalled villages, peaceful people, dwelling without walls in an assumed safety. So how could this happen when Israel is anything but that today, right? Well, first, the elimination of Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. And now I put this together back on May 13th initially. So Hamas was about to be eliminated in Operation Gideon's Chariots. It's going on right now. And they have Hamas absolutely encompassed or circled right now. They've broken the Gaza Strip up into 5 different segments. And they have them absolutely surrounded right now. And they're moving the residents from location to location and then just demolishing anything, hospitals, schools, it doesn't matter what it is. If the terrorists are in those buildings and they vacated the buildings, they're destroying them and the tunnels underneath them. And when it's completed, it's going to bring into focus the Gazalago prophecy in Zephaniah 2 that I just posted and taught a couple of weeks ago. It's another recent lesson. You might want to go back and listen to that. Hezbollah is basically depleted. The Lebanon government is trying to overtake them with their own military, and they're not doing a very good job. And so Israel is bombing any and every single location they can find where there are Hezbollah terrorists or weapons that are still remaining in Lebanon. So they're very close to being depleted. The Houthis had been getting destroyed by the U.S., ongoing by Israel. So the 3 proxy groups that belong to Iran are just about done. Iran doesn't really have them to attack Israel with any longer. So Israel would no longer be threatened from that inner ring of terrorist groups. Now, secondly, the destruction of Damascus. I covered that in a previous lesson in Isaiah 17, another lesson you might want to go back and watch if you haven't yet. Then we have the demolition of Iran and their nuclear capabilities. That's in a prophecy in Jeremiah 49. Also a previous lesson that you can go back and watch. So I don't know which will come first, whether Damascus will get destroyed or Iran. I really don't know which one is going to come first. Either one could happen. It could happen today. But one or the other probably is going to be the catalyst for the Gog Magog attack. And both of these prophecies were covered again in a recent lesson. So if I had to guess, my guess would be that Iran will get destroyed in early June. Uh, Now, two things could happen. It could be destroyed by a U.S.-Israeli joint attack. France, England, Germany, others could participate because they all are against Iran getting nuclear weapons. But also, Trump could pull a rabbit out of his hat and sign a bad deal for the sake of his ego. And I'm really afraid that Trump might make a bad deal right now rather than be seen as failing to make a deal, right? He's the author of The Art of the Deal, and he's got an ego the size of Texas. And he's getting nowhere with Hamas and he's getting nowhere with Iran. And that's got to be killing him because he's the guy that makes every deal. And it always comes out in his event. But either way, uh, we're going to either have a deal with Iran, and so they'll get rid of all the nuclear stuff. That would be great. A lot of innocent people wouldn't have to die in the attacks, or the attack's going to happen. Either way, Iran's going to be out of the picture here pretty quick. Now, fourth is a U.S. brokered peace agreement with Iran that Israel falls for. So if Trump signs an agreement with Iran, but he doesn't stop them from keeping and or um, upgrading their uranium supplies, Israel's going to attack with or without the United States. They cannot allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. And right now they have enough nuclear material for 10 bombs, missiles, but they don't have the delivery system. They have the missile, they don't have the warhead and the triggering device for it. But they could get that from China, from North Korea, from Pakistan, from India, from Russia, and they all have agreements with one another. So nothing would prevent them from getting it. And fifth is that with the terrorist groups defeated, if that were to happen, and Iran being neutered, assuming Israel attacks them with or without the US, Iran and Turkey are going to join Russia to attack Israel. And that's what the whole Gog Magog war is about. Libya and Sudan are in the midst of civil wars now, and the radical Islamic factions in those nations are in military agreements with Russia and Iran today. And then Libya and Sudan, the other two participants in the war that are clearly identified, are allowing Russia to build nuclear submarine bases. And you can look at the map here. It will allow Russia to have Israel completely surrounded. They will have Israel surrounded by all sides. And so Russia and the leader of that Gog is going to go along with these people because the Lord is putting a hook in his jaw to draw him down. So if he had no other reason in the world to attack Israel, God says he's putting a hook in his jaw and he's going to draw him down to make this attack. Now, something to watch in Newsweek on April 16th this year, Russia's upper house of parliament ratified a sweeping 20-year strategic partnership agreement with Iran on Wednesday, deepening the military and nuclear cooperation just as fears of conflict between Washington and Tehran intensify. So Russia has agreed with Iran, both militarily and with nuclear cooperation, because of the tension between Washington and Tehran, right? So Russia could easily give them the warhead they need. And they have a 20-year military agreement that says if one of us is attacked, the other one will come to their aid. The same with China, the same with Sudan and Libya. All five of those nations have a 20-year agreement to defend each other. So the Russian Federation Council confirmed the deal's ratification following a session in Moscow, advancing a pact signed in January by Russian President Vladimir Putin and Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. The agreement paves the way for expanded defense coordination. This is their words, and signals Moscow's backing for Tehran amid heightened tensions with the United States. So, what does that mean if the United States helps Israel attack Iran? Russia and China are committed to help defend Iran. So, this really could be World War III. I mean, this, I don't think we even realize how close this is and how difficult this is going to be to recover from. But why would Russia do it? Well, besides the hook factor in their jaw, they've taken great losses to their forces, their military equipment and weapons, and their finances during this war with Ukraine. And they could rebuild by taking what Israel has. They could recover almost all that they've lost in the war with Ukraine by attacking Israel and taking Israel's stuff. And Russia just lost a third of their bomber fleet to a Ukrainian drone attack this past week, if you hadn't seen that in the news. And they're using weapons provided by the US and Western Europe nations. So this is just poking the bear in the eye, if you will, with Russia. And then the other nations outside of Russia currently would be attacking out of hatred for the Jews. And so what does Israel have to take? What's the booty, right? What are the spoils that they would be coming after? That's the purpose. This lesson is the purpose. Gog Magog, part two. We saw the players. Now, this is the purpose for the attack. We're told plunder, which is shalal. It means gain or spoil. And booty is baz. It means robbery. It normally is referring to people or cattle. So actually coming and taking people or cattle. But again, this was a word used by a prophet, 2,500 years ago. Now, livestock is miknah. It could be cattle. It could be flocks. And remember that cattle and flocks were food and livelihood back when this was written. Okay, so this could be Old Testament verbiage describing the food the people had and their livelihoods. They used oxen and donkeys and so on and so forth to work their fields and for all their produce and stuff. The oxen and the donkeys were their farm machinery, as we were looking at in Exodus here a few weeks back, and we'll pick up in Exodus here before long. But today, that could mean machinery, technology, vehicles, planes, etc. Goods is kinyan. It means their substance, their wealth, their possessions, property, and riches. Their finances are exploding in the midst of a war. Their stock market is skyrocketing. They're doing outstanding in spite of all of what they're having to deal with right now. Silver is a store of wealth, and gold, they have plenty of gold, but there are rumors that some of Solomon's hidden gold has actually been located, and it'd be another store of wealth. And I read one report where they think it's in the mountains of, oh, God, I'm drawing a blank.
Megiddo?
No, the mountain that they just, Trump gave them oversight of here a few years back. They've actually have forces up on the mountain right now looking down over Syria. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. There's indications that maybe gold was hidden there in that mount and now it's been located. Wouldn't surprise me now that Israel has control of the mountain. Then there's oil and natural gas, and they have massive fields discovered in Israel waters in the Mediterranean Sea. The major one is called Leviathan, and there's enough to supply all of Europe, a tremendous financial treasure. And Russia has lost the ability to sell a lot of its resources because of all the sanctions on it. And so this would be a major coup for Iran, for Russia, for Turkey to get those fields. Now, this was in Wikipedia. Uh, the Leviathan gas field is a large natural gas field in the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Israel. It's southwest of the Tamar gas field. The gas field is west of Haifa, the harbor, and waters 4,900 feet deep in the Leviathan Basin. It's a rich hydrocarbon area and one of the largest offshore natural gas field finds. According to commentators, the gas find has the potential to change Israel's foreign relations with neighboring countries, including Turkey and Egypt. Together with the nearby Tamar gas field, the Leviathan field was seen as an opportunity for Israel to achieve energy independence in the Middle East. In 2017, Leviathan was estimated to hold enough gas to meet Israel's domestic needs for the next 40 years. Just that one field, they found three others now since then. So there is so much in Israel that they could come and take for booty and spoil. The amazing technology. If you name the field, and they're among the world leaders in it. Water technology, they are actually extracting water from the air and they're turning wastewater into drinking water. People can actually drink the treated wastewater, although they're using it for agriculture. Plus, they have great bagels and pastries and all kinds of fruit and vegetables that they supply to the world. Now, why the protesters? We see Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish mentioned, right? Well, Sheba and Dedan, as we saw, are referring to Saudi Arabia and those Arab Emirate countries. And both of these groups, Sheba and Dedan, are about to have massive financial interest in Israel soon, right? And they're going to complain because of the financial losses they'll take if these nations come down and attack and take over Israel and all of its stuff. The merchants of Tarshish, this is disputed. It could be referring to Spain or the United Kingdom or both. We talked about that the last time. Tarshish seems to talk about tin, and that's what England was known for, shipping it around the world. We even saw that there were rocks with plaques on them referring to that in Rhode Island. And so that would kind of point towards the US, but Spain could also be Tarshish or part of Tarshish because Columbus came to the United States. So nobody knows for sure, but the young lions, if it is the United States, that would make sense because of the future financial gains they're going to lose in Israel if the current plans work out with Gaza-Lago and the overland supply chain highway. You can read about this. It's going to connect India, the Middle East, and the European Economic Corridor. It's called the IMEC. It was approved in September of 23. So they're going to build an overroad supply highway to get around the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf because they're being blocked by the Houthis and Iran and threats of blocking, and they're attacking ships. They just attacked another ship today in one of the seas. I think it was in the Persian Gulf. And anyway, a special report by Israeli television channel 13 reveals how Israel is using the land route that begins from Dubai, passes through Saudi Arabia and Jordan to transport cargo in order to bypass the Houthi blockade in the Red Sea. So all of these things are in play today as we're looking at this war and how close this could be. And a note here is that I find it interesting that the United States, if indeed they are a young lion, all we do is complain. We don't get involved to help Israel. And that would mean one of a few different things. mean that the United States has collapsed militarily or that it's abandoned Israel at the time this occurs? I, I don't know which. Could be both. I don't think that would happen with our current leader in office. So maybe this event is a few years away. I don't know. Or perhaps another lone wolf tries to bring us a new leader, right? It happened a couple of times in the last couple of years. So it's as a question, and how could the United States collapse? Well, we could end up with a far left POTUS again, or we could suffer financial collapse, or a combination of both, right? A far left POTUS would mean no military spending, runaway spending, open borders again to allow people to come across the border and become Democratic voters for all the handouts they get. And inflation would be running away like it was just back a year ago. Second is the debt load. I don't think people even realize how bad this is. But our debt load is well over $32 billion. Some estimated at $42 billion right now. And the interest payment, we would not be able to cover it. We could not afford to pay for this. We currently spend 1 trillion with a T dollars a year for interest on our debt and 7 billion on our military. So we pay more on debt than we do for entire military. And we can't afford and won't be able to afford keeping our military up to speed much longer. And our military, I believe, is being surpassed in China and Russia right now with all this drone technology. They seem to be way, way ahead of us. Now, Doge just discovered 4.7, this is just staggering to me, $4.7 trillion of untraceable dollars spent with no idea where it went. Imagine that. $5 trillion was spent, and we have no idea where it went. Our government is absolutely out of control. And this Doge team that Musk put together, although he has just left now, they're discovering unbelievable amounts of money and all kinds of corruption in our Congress, in the Congress and the Senate. So we know that Russia is going to need to rebuild here after this battle with Ukraine. Iran will be devastated and not capable of going it alone after Israel attacks them or their whole nuclear program is torn down. There'll be a toothless tiger at that point. Turkey has already threatened Israel militarily. They they were talking about coming to the defense of Hamas just a couple of months ago. And Libya and Sudan, the other two of the five, will go along with the ride like the Hole in the Wall gang did with Butch and Sundance, right? Just to get a piece of the action. And they're to the south and the west. And so both of these countries, Sudan and Libya, are in civil wars today and soon will be totally under radical Islamic Muslim control. So you can see how all of these piece parts are falling together. Never in history have these countries been in any kind of an alliance. They were enemies of one another. And now they have 20-year military alliances and trade agreements, and all of them working to become part of the BRIC nations. I mean, all of this is falling right into place. So we'll leave it at this part tonight with this, that Lord, everything is falling right into place, just as you prophesied. Help us get prepared for your calling us home as the time is drawing really near. We're living in the times of the end time signs. So help us stay alert and do kingdom business until you call us up for the marriage supper of the Lamb. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, next week, I think we will probably continue with the Olivet Discourse and also the Gog Magog War with the next parts. And there are a whole bunch of other lessons I've got finished already to go over. All of this towards this end time stuff. I'd love to get back to Exodus. I think I have 5 or 6 lessons completed now, but so much of these end times things are happening right now that it's probably best if we focus on that. I'd like to look at the difference between the rapture and the second coming again. Did that once a couple of years back, but go over that again because people are confused by it. The difference between the two Gog Magog wars, this one we're talking about now with the surrounding nations, and the one at the end of the tribulation period, two entirely different wars. And a lot of people, even end times people, think it's all the same war, but they're entirely different, and I'll explain to you why. So, just a lot of lessons. I have some things on spiritual gifts, on the will of God, just a whole series of topics I'd like to go over. What is a living sacrifice, and so on. So, we'll be looking at these as we go forward, but I want to stick to this end times signs and prophecies for the short term now to make sure we're up to date because this is right in front of us. We're seeing it happen day to day. Watch the news. Listen for some of these names, if you listen to them, and then remember, oh, yeah, they're part of this Gog Magog coalition. It all starts to make sense. So if you understand the prophecies in the Bible and the book of Revelation and Daniel, then all of this stuff is going to start to fit in. The newspaper will fit into the Bible. So that's it for this week, guys. We'll see you again next week.